Not 10 years, 8 years. But by age 20, that's when you start learning this kind of things. We are all before Bar Mitzvah. Right? So, but we have other experiences, other exposition, other things that we're exposed to, and therefore we are able to understand it. But we have to understand it and try to understand it from the perspective that is being presented, not from the worldly perspective that we have experienced in the world. This is where our struggle is. Again, we'll start from the line that begins REBBE emes on page Kuf Chof Zayin, Kuf Mem Zayin rather, and we go straight. And we're going back there because this is something which we need to understand the significance of it, and then understand the implication. How is that true? The Rebbe says, prior to that, and the line before that, that the chayus that sustains the world, the chayus of the world, that creates the world, this is the Hashem's knowing of the world. This is what makes the world present. However, this is not nurgash b'nivroim. The nivroim do not sense that they are a presence that represents Hashem's intent, Hashem's knowledge. They sense their own mitzvahs. So therefore, from that perspective, they sense only mitzvahs. They don't sense any chayus, any significance in their existence. It's just their existence. I would urge everyone, because as I said many times, we all are blessed with the divine blessing of intelligence, of neshama. It's imperative that we use it. It's imperative that we recognize it and relate to it. It is not appropriate, it is shortchanging ourselves if we are going to understand only that which is presented in a physical manner. What is it called? Whatever the term is. Mm-hmm. We have to be able. We have to be able. We are able, and we have to allow ourselves to see and to understand and to relate to things from the neshama perspective. This is what we are. We are human beings, and in the human being, his primary orientation is what's in his neshama, not what's in his guf. The neshama is chayus. Chayus Again, because we are in a physical world, the minute you think of chayus, we think, what's without chayus? Chayus and lifeless, living and lifeless.
Sorry.
This is not the emphasis of chayus, that it is not lifeless. Chayus has a unique message of its own. In other words, the difference between the human being, a living human being, and everything in the world that is lifeless, that is tangible, that is physical, it's not that the human being is able to walk around and this intangible entity is not able to walk around or move around. Or that if you hit it, it doesn't complain. It's not, chayus is not just a reaction, a response to a situation. Chayus is a proactive aspect. As we pointed out many times, we should point it out at every opportunity. The chayus in the human being is such that it's constantly asking him and demanding and pulling him to know more and to have some kind of a significance in his life. And we said many times, boredom is one of the most painful experiences of a human being. What's boredom? Boredom does not mean that he is hungry or tired or cold. Boredom means that he, with his chayus, has nothing, doesn't recognize any kind of significance. What do I do with it? Chayus is that which raises a person, a human being, to a state of recognizing a much greater reality than his own experience. And the chayus is beckoning him. Beckoning him is asking him.
Begging?
Beckoning.
To remain on this call, press 1.
Asking him, please, take me there. Let me know what this is about. Okay. And this is the chayus. This chayus, this is something which is not superimposed, which is chayus pnimi. It is our own experience. This is the reality of the human being himself. To the extent that we said, that if he cannot utilize it, he's first bored, and there is no greater suffering than being bored. It's an amazing thing. He's got everything he needs. And boredom is what eats him up. I don't have to go any further, leaving to each one his own intelligence, understand what that means. And we're starting from the line that begins, Harei ba'emes. Harei ba'emes, however, in truth, it is important to recognize that kol hagiluyim ha'hamshoches d'hoi pnimi, that all the giluyim, all the revelations, all the impressions, all the messages, and hamshochos, and further the implications, the hoi pnimi, that is our experience on the pnimi level. Hakol hu mehoyer makif. This is really all from the makif. The makif is the one that brings chayus into the pnimi. Although the pnimi is also oir, and oir by definition is chayus, but this chayus in the pnimi is from the makif. And to translate this in very simple terms, not as giving the border, so to speak, the circumscription of it, but just to understand it on a very simple level. If an oy pnimi does not recognize that there is something greater, it's not a living oy. The chayus in oy pnimi is from the oy makif. I'm going to say something that may be a little bit of a shock, but if you think about it, you'll see that this is very real. We can look up on this earth and focus and see something which is a great distance from us. Miles and miles away. And all that, this entire distance, is a distance that goes through, that is followed through on the earth. We see the earth is big, and therefore we can see great distances. However, the element, the sense, the subtle effect, implication that makes us look further out and see miles and miles away beyond that which we can reach and touch is the fact that it's encompassed and surrounded by the sky, by the makif. If all that we see would be completely independent of everything else, there would not be an encompassing reality, then we would not see it. We wouldn't pay attention to it. It would be insignificant. There would be no such thing as distance. Each step is an entity unto itself. Distance means that it is encompassed. This encompassment, this is what's called the makif. In the physical world, this is of the sky. And it says in Hasidus and in Psiches that one of the great favors that Hashem did with the human being, a significant, a fundamental favor, is in his physical structure. His physical structure is such that, in contrast to the animal, just to point out, a behemoth, as it walks, it looks down to the ground. That's its natural view. You could turn over, look up, but that's not the way it is built. There has to be something to arouse it and to so to speak, force it to look up. And even then, it's not looking up, it's looking within the context of the earth. A human being is always oriented with the sky.
We can expand your marshal of the distance on the earthly panorama to looking at the moon and the stars.
Okay. So the human being was so structured that he is always, as he's walking, he always sees the sky and the earth in contrast to each other. He sees the earth in contrast to the sun, to the sky. He's always seeing the end of the earth and where the sky begins. This is how human being is built. This Indian that he sees the sky all the time is very significant for the human being. Because this means that his natural view of things is that there is a makif and a pnimi. This is how he is built. This is a physical build, and that results and is represented in his spiritual, in intellectual view of things. This is what we're saying. That all of that is from the makif. It is the influence of the makif that makes him see the pnimi, the oil and the pnimi.
The influence of the makif.
Let me explain.
To explain that oil makif is rooted, or pnimi is rooted in oil makif. Is that what?
It's drawn from the oil makif. When we see a rock, couldn't be anything simpler than that. And we see it's a solid rock. Let's contrast our seeing it and that of the animal seeing it. We are seeing the rock not as a rock that will be an obstacle in our walking. We see the rock in contrast as part of the entire reality of the sky itself. It's a real rock. It's not because it is an obstacle in our view, in our walk, and all that. It is an entity has a truth of its own. The animal sees a rock as a blocker. You cannot go beyond the clock. If you have to go there, you have to go around the rock. Because the animal is physically oriented and the human being is spiritually oriented. The rock to him is not such a great obstacle. It's part of the big sky. When he has to go around the rock, he doesn't go out of his way. He's within the reality as he perceives the rock itself.
Right. It does seem that even so, the human being is maybe even primarily focused on all the details, sort of all makif. You cannot describe the sky, or pnimi. You cannot describe the sky, but people talk endlessly about what's for dinner.
Just let me answer, please. Please. People live with what's for dinner. That's what their life is about.
No, that's not what I said. That in a revealed sense, while the vitality might come from or makif, it does seem like people's conscious life is within pnimi. Is that fair to say?
Unfair to say that at all. Okay. If you say to your friend, come, let's take a walk. What are you looking forward to?
Okay.
The number of steps you'll take? How many rocks you'll bypass?
Dinner when you get home? No.
Dinner when you get home?
It's like the wagon driver and the Hasidim.
Exactly.
Okay.
Wagon?
Driver and the horses and the Hasidim in the wagon. Each is thinking of a different destination. The hay.
Tell him the whole thing. Might as well.
I cannot tell it.
You cannot tell it.
As well as.
Okay, if he doesn't know that, it doesn't hurt us to review this, to repeat it. Chassidim used to travel to the Rebbe. Travel to the Rebbe was a very great undertaking.
Very great?
Undertaking. They didn't go on normal cars.
Yeah.
There was a horse and a buggy, and the horse had to be fed and maintained and so forth. They had to arrange it. This journey was quite an undertaking. And they arranged. They got into the wagon and they were riding. So in this entourage, In this drive, there are three different sections. There's the horse. The horse is riding and is going in full gallop. You know what gallop means?
Energy.
Full energy, right. Why is he going there with such gallop, such excitement? Because the horse is sure that at the end of the journey he's going to have hay. His feet is over there, so therefore he's running towards his feet. On top of the horse, right behind the horse, pulling the laces, is the wagon driver. Wagon driver is also with full zest in pulling the horses and encouraging to go faster. Because at the end of the journey, he's going to get paid. Behind the wagon driver are the people in the wagon. The people in the wagon are Chassidim. They are sitting there, waiting to arrive to their Rebbe. What do they have in mind? They're completely oblivious of the trip. They are dreaming of seeing the Rebbe. They're in a completely different world. This is the mashal for our lives. We can be the horse, we can be the wagon driver, we can be the chassid. And the Rebbe has so structured the human being that he's primarily the chassid. Because I said he sees the sky all the time. But he can turn away and look back into his horse's situation, horse's nature, and the wagon driver situation. But the way the Rebbe should structure the human being is that he should be the chassid. The complete oblivious to all this process. And being focused on that which is completely in a higher level. That's how the Rebbe should build the human being. Now it's up to the human being to accept that instruction and to develop it, or to fall back to the horse's position or the wagon driver's position.
There's a thing in Hasidic.
Okay, and that's just good.
It's like a person, a dog walks in 4, and then a human being walks in 2, and you see the sky. Well, how does it go?
This was we just discussing,
Yeah.
All right, the line begins Harei Be'emes. Harei Be'emes, and therefore there is chayus on the pnimi level. But in truth, all the giluyim, everything that comes to focus on the pnimi level, hakoil hu makif. It is all from the makif. It is the influence of the makif that brings oyer and chayus under the pnimi level. There is a pnimi chayus, but if we would not have the broader sighting of their makif, the pnimi would not have chayus. Motion is by the Zayin with Bnei Chom Zayin. As we explained earlier, the cherish hoiros.
Okay, that's one quick thing. As we said, it seems that the person, from the, at least in the mashal, has a sense of the ordered makif directly in the sky. And this is what gives him significance to the or pnimi. The Maimer seems to say
that's what the Rebbe said. The Rebbe said.
Morgash, but the or pnimi has a sense of it.
That's right.
But here we're saying that he sees this.
His personal identity, his personal field, his personal identity as to who he is the pnimi. Where he is and where he's coming from is the makif. And what he's there for is the makif. It is to bring down the greatness and the purity and the spirituality and the power of the makif into the pnimi. That's his, essentially, that's his mission on earth.
You're saying this all comes through the pnimi.
Mm-hmm.
This all comes through the pnimi.
Yes, so bring it down to pnimi, so it becomes real in the world. That's his task.
His task is to be open to and manifest the makif.
To be mamshik the makif into pnimi.
This being mamshik, seemingly makif is milamaila, so being mamshik is kind of getting out of the way in terms of
No. Mamshik means that he is translating it in his own pnimic level. He actually brings it down, relates to it from his vantage point.
He makes some effort from below. He acknowledges. He senses.
He acknowledges it, and he says, "This is what I'm trying to replicate here." If you go, the human being goes and takes a shower before he goes to daven. He's davening with his mouth or with his mind. What do you have to take a shower for? The halacha is that a person has to be clean before he goes to daven. What kind of cleanliness? He doesn't daven with his body. He davens with his mind, with his heart. This cleanliness is recognizing, yes, you daven with your inner koiches, but you are in the vicinity, in Hashem's presence when you daven. And in deference to Hashem's presence, by davening, particularly when you stand in front of Him and says, "I want to approach you," you have to be prepared in a dignified, in a respectful manner. Even the davening itself is an internal process.
בכל עצמותיי תאמרנה. בכל עצמותיי תאמרנה.
Okay. So the Hamshochet Gilui V'Yemnei Pnimi is from the makif. It all comes from the makif, except you have to draw it down on the pnimi level. Okay, let's go back. The line begins to break up side. The Shoroshi Ho'eres, we explained earlier that Shoroshi Ho'eres, the roots of the Eres. Where did the Eres start? Let me explain this term. I tried to explain it many times. I don't know if it came through. I want to explain that, like we say over here, everything that's an pnimi comes from the makif. This inyan that it comes from the makif is not only that it comes from the makif, but it becomes pnimi outside of the makif. In the makif itself, it's already a pnimi. The makif recognizes the significance of the pnimi. And it already identifies the pnimi elements that can be translated on the worldly level, even though it's a makif. This is what Shorosh Ha'eres, the roots, the beginning point of the Eres. The beginning point of the Eres is in the makif. This is what gives an oir a definition of oir, even though this is oires that ultimately become pnimi. So we said, Shehein Eshes Spheres Agnosis. Eshes is the Eshes Spheres Agnosis, the Eshes Spheres that are contained within the inside. Who? And it is Mashiach Oir Inside. It is where the Oir Inside itself, Shir Be'atzmai, Shir Be'atzmai, has identified within himself. He identified with himself and prepared himself lahoyer to express himself in midol gvul, in a midol gvul manner. What is he expressing? Ein sof, hoyer ein sof. But he identified within the Ein sof of what he can express in midol gvul, in a finite and a measured manner. Shazehu, which is Bechinas, the Bechina of Malchus Ein Sof. This is the Bechina of Malchus Ein Sof. As we explained the other day, we spoke on the great length from Malchus. Malchus Ein Sof, the Malchus at the level of Ein Sof. The principle of Malchus is, even though the Melech is completely superior to his subjects, he is really in a palace in a completely different environment. But the Melech relates to his subjects, as we explained this at great length the other day. And the subjects are significant to him, and he has a special deference for them.